Welcome to Three Food Memories. Our guest on this episode of Three Food Memories is perhaps our most well-known guest to date. For decades, especially through the 80s and 90s, she and her husband were household names, woven into the daily lives of Australians. An award-winning author of more than 15 books, her landmark work, the biography of her late husband, has been credited as the gold standard of Australian political writing. Now into her 9th decade, she joins me in Sydney to reflect on her remarkable life and to celebrate the release of her latest book, The Bunny Club, a raunchy thriller that, although a world away from her more serious work, once again proves her sharp wit and command of the pen, and subtle spotlight thief. Josephine Blanche Dalpouget, MTC. Welcome to Three Food Memories.
Thank you very much, Saba.
Now, we must tell everyone that you've just recovered from a bout of pneumonia.
Yes, which is why my voice is so
Sexy.
Sexy, of course, yes.
Let's go with, so how have you recovered? You're looking great.
Oh, well, thank you. That's an illusion.
Now, you've described your life as adventurous.
Yes.
I'd go one step further and say absolutely thrilling, sometimes very scary, much like your latest book, and racy. In your life, you've survived car crashes. Let's go through them all. Light plane crashes.
Yes.
Let me know if I've missed out on anything.
Well, only one light plane crash. Several car crashes. Yes.
One light plane crash. Your soulmate dying. A breast cancer diagnosis and treatment. What's life for you like these days?
Not quite as dramatic as that. Calmer, let me say, and very, very pleasant.
Tell me that you had a really simple bowl of cereal today. Your breakfast, the morning, just rolled.
The morning rolled with brown rice, 2 hard-boiled eggs, and some extra virgin olive oil.
Wow, where did you get this little treat from?
I made it all up myself.
And you've been having this for breakfast for how long?
Oh, a couple of years.
For a couple of years, and it keeps you fit and healthy.
Yes, yes.
Some say you're a survivor, but you've previously said everything is a blessing if you look at it the right way. Is this the mindset that keeps you up and at it?
I think so. Looking at things as a blessing and living with gratitude. I think that's enormously important.
And have there been moments in your life when it didn't feel like a blessing, when you just had to, it was harder to do that one step in front of the other?
Oh, sure. There have been plenty of those. Plenty.
And how do you move through that?
Determination and a degree of faith in, knowledge that everything changes. The one constant in life is change. So you're in a bad spot, that'll change to a better spot. You're in a very good spot, it'll change to a worse spot.
So you make hay while the sun is shining?
Yes, yes.
And when it's not?
And when it's not, you get out of the rain.
Your latest book, The Bunny Club, wonderful book, racy book, raunchy book,
yes,
addresses the loneliness amongst older women and offers a creative solution for some other women. What inspired you to write this book?
I'm not sure, actually.
Because the most obvious thing to say is, well, you know, you're an older woman, you're writing about these women,
yes.
and you're single, you're on your own now.
Yes.
But I just don't feel that's kind of the trigger for you.
Well, I honestly don't know now, because I did start writing it several years ago. It was because it's a murder mystery, and I'd never done a murder mystery before, and so I had to do it and redo it and redo it to get it straight, to get it right. There's a certain way of doing these things, and I just had to teach myself.
Had you written a murder mystery before?
No, this was it.
And what was it like going through the machinations of the plotting and the characterisation? And
oh, it's very interesting, because you've got to at once throw out a little trail of breadcrumbs to the true solution, and also shoals and shoals of red herrings to mislead the readers.
And did you find yourself misled in what you were creating?
No, I wasn't misled, but I was hoping it would mislead them. And indeed, I interviewed a lot of people for this book, including a couple of detectives, and the one person who very early on picked the guilty party, I won't say the murderer or murderers, was a detective. Just straight up. They think differently from us.
And so you had to think like a detective.
Well, I guess I had to, yes. But it was so interesting that of all my friends who I got to read it, none of them picked until the very end, knew who'd done it. But the detective knew right early on.
Have you read many thriller books? Murder
Not a
mystery
lot,
books?
not a lot, which is another piece of recklessness on my part. Not only writing in a genre I'd never done before, but I like that kind of challenge.
And tell me about Blanche and recklessness. How are they friends?
Very close friends, actually. Have been for years.
What makes you reckless?
I think I'm born that way, but I do come from an adventurous family. My dad was very adventurous. I grew up sailing on Sydney Harbour, and I don't know, it's just an attitude. Also, my great-grandfather, it was, who came out from France in a small boat and then set up in Sydney and traded in the South Pacific. So I think it's in our blood.
Intrepid.
Intrepid, yes.
Tell me, writing about loneliness in other people, did that help ease, I'm presuming, your own loneliness?
It's hard to say, but I did observe it in so many of my older and younger women friends who'd become widows. And I think it's a very big area that's happening. Well, it's now being recognised as it's extraordinarily socially important to address loneliness.
Do you think loneliness can be dispelled?
Yes.
How would you? What would be one or two tips?
Well, for me, it's probably meditation is the most important. Obviously, social contacts and eating out and seeing your friends.
But that's not always available to all people, is it?
It's not. Meditation is.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that if they'll persist and learn how to do it.
And is that something that you've done your whole life, meditation?
Since I was 28.
Wow. And you go to a place of stillness?
I try to go to meditate always in the same spot. Physically the same spot. Though after a while you can do it anywhere. You can do it sitting on a train with 1,000 people talking. But preferably same spot, same time, sit down, and that's it. And it's my spot, and nobody else uses that. Nobody else's energy comes in there.
And it's not a physical spot. Is it a physical spot? Or
Yes.
it's a physical spot?
It's a chair.
It's a chair that you go to?
Yes.
How do you take the chair on the train?
I don't take the chair on the train. And I actually don't meditate on the train usually.
Now, there's an exciting book coming up about you very soon. Is it exciting to have somebody else write about you?
Oh, look, it was horrifying. It was fun. It was fun doing it. The book is called Fridays with Blanche. It's by Derek Riley, and he's a very good writer. He'd previously done a book called Wednesdays with Bob, and which sold very well, etc. And then he did a book with Gopalil, and now me. And I was horrified at some of the stuff he turned up. It was just, I really didn't want to know it.
What was your involvement in Derek's book?
Oh, he would come and see me, not necessarily on Fridays, but often on Fridays, and we'd have a couple of hours interview, or often we'd have a guest to lunch, and they would talk about an old friend of mine, and they'd talk about life that they'd known me for when I was young and mad and in my 20s, or even younger. And then he'd go away and write about it. But he did a lot of research, for example, on my cancer treatment and breast reconstruction, which I had deliberately not wanted to know. So I did read it and it was yucky.
Were there things in the discussions during the lunches that you were like, oh, no, I don't want that in the book? But you had to, it would have been very hard to tell your story without those bits.
I was pretty frank. There was very little that I did cut out. The publishers cut some stuff out because they thought that they'd get sued.
Even, you can't say what you want. Even in in your later years, you're going to get censored. Is that right?
Well, they thought that I wouldn't be in trouble, but they would be in trouble from the person being talked about.
So you've read the final edit of the book.
Yes.
It's coming out very, very soon.
Yes.
How similar is it to Bob's book?
Oh, it's completely different. Because Bob was a politician, he wasn't as open and reckless as I was in answering questions. His book was very, very interesting and full of good meat. Again, that Derek had turned up, but it's a completely different in tone book.
Do they bookend each other?
I don't think so.
Right. Similar premise. It's about coming together and eat. Well, actually, scrap that edit. Let's start. What were some of the meals that you had during these lunches?
Oh, well, it was funny. I've got to confess to you and your audience, I've had COVID twice and long COVID, and I've completely lost my sense of smell and taste. So I now can't taste anything, and nor have I been able to for over 2 years.
What's that like?
Weird. It's extraordinary what you get used to, and I've got used to it. But so what we used to have, what Derek would bring for lunch, would always be a very wonderful sashimi salad, and because everybody will eat that, that's what we ate.
So let's go to a time when you could smell and taste things.
Yes.
Your first food memory, it's typically Australian, Anzac biscuits on the water.
Yes. My mum was a very good cook, and we used to go sailing every week, both days of every weekend, unless it was steaming with rain. And back in those wonderful days, those halcyon days of the 40s and 50s, it never rained in summer in Sydney, as I remember it. So we used to go sailing, and we'd always take lunch, but part of the lunch was Anzac biscuits. And I've never forgotten them. She made a very good Anzac biscuit.
What was the strongest memory of those weekends sailing?
Oh, it was adventurous because we used to sail into there were far fewer boats on the harbour then, and there were many more fish and many more interesting sea animals, sea creatures, so like bêche de mer and so forth, and lots of sea urchins. And we used to sail from Rushcutters Bay usually up to Quarantine and more there, and have lunch on board, but also explore lots of the other small bays en route. And I'd go ashore as a kid and investigate the rock pools and pick up the bêche de mer, which was lovely picking them up, the great big squishy black things, and poke my finger into sea anemones, which probably wasn't very good. But yeah, there were all sorts of really interesting marine life. We used to see penguins and lots of dolphins.
Penguins around
around Quarantine. Yes, lots of little penguins.
And where would the biscuits, the Anzac, describe the way the Anzac, your mother would have made the Anzac biscuits.
She made the Anzac biscuits.
Describe how she made them.
Oh my goodness, I have no idea.
No.
Magic. Mother magic. But they were good, they were lovely ones. They were sort of like big and like that, and they were completely flat on the bottom because she'd obviously baked them on baking paper.
And they'd come out, during that, when you were moored?
When we were moored, yes. Yeah. We'd be anchored, we'd have our lunch, whatever it was, and then the Anzac biscuit would be last.
Blanche, as you go back and talk about this time, I see your demeanour change into a beautiful little girl, and even your body language and your hands and your voice. Why are those halcyon days so memorable to you?
I think everybody's childhood is memorable, for good or for bad. One hopes for good. Mine was very much for good. You're sort of filled with divine potential as a child. And that's how adults see you. You don't see it yourself. But I think that's how adults see you and treat you.
Do you think you fulfilled your divine potential?
Not as my parents would have wished me to. I have to say, they were rather horrified at a great deal of my life. But yes, I think I did. And there's more to come.
And I was just about to say, but you beat me to it. You're not pushing little daisies up yet, are you, Blanche?
No.
So I hear you're an expert fisherwoman also.
I was pretty good. Well, small fish, yellowtail and tailor and so forth. I did, though, actually, when I was older, and Bob and I used to do a lot of fishing. Our honeymoon was a fishing holiday, and I used to catch some pretty good fish.
And what I can't fish to save myself. So what is the trick? Is it patience?
It's partly patience and it's partly luck.
Or was it, what about Blanche magnetism? Do you think
yes, yes. There's a lot of excitement. What's thrilling is you've caught something and you don't know what it is. And you're looking down into the water, waiting until you see that first sign of colour. So is it going to be red? Is it going to be silver? It's going to be grey, which is a shark. You usually know when you've got a shark on because they're so damn strong, even the small ones.
And what did you do with them?
Oh, well, the men in the grey suits are not very favoured by fishermen because half the time you might be pulling your fish in, damn shark will come up and bite it off the hook, bite it.
So from the get-go, you become this resilient person, aren't you? There's nothing's going to get you. If you're not scared of sharks, well, you're not scared of anything.
Not much.
You're an only child.
Yes.
We spoke earlier about loneliness. Were you ever lonely as a child?
Honestly, I don't think I was. There was lots to do. I had a pet. I spent a lot of time with my mother and my father. And I always found life interesting. We had a lovely big back garden and there was all sorts of
Where
stuff.
did you grow up?
Darling Point.
Oh, of course, right on the harbour.
Yeah. And we could see our boat from the house.
Where did you go to school?
Skeggs, Darlinghurst.
Just around. Oh, wow, just down the hill.
Yes.
So you would have seen a great deal of fun, the colour, and you would have seen enormous changes.
Oh, yes, but what was extraordinary, so here I was going to this rather posh girls-only grammar school and walking to school from the bus used to pass a lot of prostitutes, brothels, and there would be at sort of 8:30 in the morning and the prostitutes would be hanging in their doorways having a cigarette and still in their dressing gowns. We used to see all of this. It was funny.
Where did you meet the boys?
Oh, on the school bus.
What school were they at?
Scots or grammar.
And did you keep them tidy?
Oh yes, very, very. No, my father was tremendously strict, so there were no boys were allowed.
And when did you first? I can ask this question because I have read the Bunny book, the Bunny Club. When did you first kiss a boy?
Oh, I would have been at least 16. Yes, I think I was 16.
Were you in control of that situation?
Yes.
It was. You wanted to be a marine biologist. I'm moving away from kissing boys. You wanted to be a marine biologist as a child. What happened?
I kissed him. I ran away from home with a man, a very, very unsuitable lover who was older than I and very interesting. He was a Polish asylum seeker, a political asylum seeker. He'd escaped. He'd been in India, and he walked into, and of course Poland was under the Soviet Union then, and didn't like it one bit. So he walked into the Australian Embassy in New Delhi and said, "I want to seek asylum." They said, "Come this way, sir." And we met in Sydney in a bookshop where I was working.
And so how did you must have had a feeling for him that there was something exotic about him, a very exciting...
Oh, he was very exotic and exciting, yes. he had really high cheekbones. I probably had a bit of Cossack in him. And it was kind of boom at first sight.
So you ran away with home. Do you remember his name?
Of course.
What was his
Leszek Szymanski.
And how old was he?
Well, I was 17, he was 28.
Back then, that would have been a bit of a big deal. Well, I guess still now.
Yes, it was.
And so where did this adventure take you?
Well, away from home and university initially. And then we ran off to Melbourne together because I'd had a big fight with my father over this, which is why I ran away from home. And he had the police following me. And they were making themselves obvious in their squad cars. So we thought, oh, well, we'll escape, go to Melbourne. And, of course, these people, Poles had been through the war, and they knew a lot about making false identity papers and so forth. There was a big Polish community in Melbourne. So we'll go down to Melbourne, get false identity papers, and go to New Zealand. What we didn't know was the age of consent in Sydney was 16, and I was already 17. The age of consent in Melbourne was 18. So as soon as the minute we arrived in Melbourne, he was arrested. I was a child in moral danger.
And so then?
Well, so then it was a disaster for him because he was on whatever sort of visa political asylum seekers are on, I don't know. And I was taken back home to Sydney, and he, after a short period, went up to Queensland and went cane cutting, which was the other alternative to going on the lam in Australia. But then after a while he made his way to America, and he did very well in America and was given a medal by President Reagan and so forth.
Did you ever reconnect with him?
Yes, well, he reconnected with me years later. He wrote Blanche Delbuget, Sydney, Australia. And this is when I was married to Bob, and the letter got to me. So we stayed in communication for quite a while.
And what did the letter say?
Oh, I've forgotten now, but it was greetings and bringing me up to speed. He sent me a lot of his books. He was a writer.
And were you okay? So this is now I'm kind of getting where all the espionage and the thriller bits came from the novel. It's all kind of from this sort of early. It was born at this time, wasn't it? Because if he's if he's teaching you how to do illegal papers and all the rest of it, were you surprised at some of the stories he was telling you of what had happened in Europe during the war?
Yes, I was surprised to hear them. And they were appalling, but they're the sort of things we know now do happen.
So did that set you up for a life that you have led?
I don't know if it was that set me up, but certainly it contributed.
What set you up?
Don't know. Yeah.
Let's just keep talking and investigating and see what else we can find. Now, you are very comfortable about talking about sex. It's become very comfortable. Relationships are very easy for you to talk about, especially between men and women. What is it that young people, why is it, do you think, that young people find it difficult to hear older people talking about sex?
Because they think it's yucky. They see us all as wrinklies and how yucky. And also, I think, they think of their parents having sex, and that really it puts everybody off. I mean, it puts me off too.
Thinking about your parents.
Having sex, you just don't want to imagine it.
But it is not just the physical act of the sex. It's the intimacy, it's the relationship building. What in that ignites you? What makes you happy to hear these stories?
Well, the happiness that men and women, or women and women, or men and men, can bring to each other. Intimacy is wonderful. Love is our highest ideal.
Your second memory takes us to a time where you meet Bob, the love of your life.
Yes.
A true love, a few people have called it.
It is. It was a true love.
Still
yes.
is?
Still is, but look, he's dead.
Your second memory are Indonesian meals and meeting Bob. Tell us about them.
Well, I lived in Indonesia in two bits. And the first time I went with my first husband, we lived a very exciting, thrilling life, because Indonesia at the time was very exciting and thrilling. There'd been an abortive coup by the communists, or if you look at it the other way, which is probably more accurate, a very successful coup by the army again, and the place was in total chaos. Jakarta was in absolute chaos. My mother had a fit when I told her I was going there, because she thought the gutters would be running with blood, which is why the press, that beats everything up and magnifies it. But it was still pretty scary. Not if you were a white foreigner, it wasn't. But Jakarta was under military investiture, so you were out after 10 p.m. and out before 6 a.m. and you got shot. Quite simple. So the solution to that was to party all night.
From wherever you were?
Yeah, oh yes, in our friends' houses, yes. Start before 10 and
Go to the morning.
go to the morning.
What
yes.
did these parties look like?
Oh, they were loads of fun, just loads of fun, because there was nothing else to do. There were no cinemas, or nothing was open. The inflation was 350%. It was hard to get everything, hard to make a phone call, hard to make the sewerage work, etc., etc. You've got no idea when a society breaks down, what it's like.
How long did you stay in Indonesia during this?
Well, that was 2 years, and then had break, and then I went back for another 2 years, and it was in that second period that I met Bob.
And before we get to meeting Bob, you gave us so many different meals that you ate while you were there.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
So tell us some of the baby monkey paws in soup, the goat penis satay.
Yes.
And living on lambs only for 2 weeks.
Yes, yams, yes. Well, the little monkey's paw in the soup was with an American woman who was very pushy and thought she knew everything about everything, and she insisted that we eat this soup, and it was she who whacked in her fork and pulled out the monkey's paw and nearly had a fit on the spot. I must say, we all did have a fit from laughing at her. Look, we ate everything. You had to. Well, you didn't have to.
What did it taste like?
Eh?
What did monkey paw taste like?
I don't quite recall now. I think just like monkey paw, just like you'd imagine it. But there were plenty of spices in there. But also, it was known as satay kontol. You can still buy it in the streets of Jakarta.
What is it called?
Well, penis.
And so
Penis
just penis rolled in peanut sauce.
Grilled.
Grilled.
Grilled over charcoal. Slowly grilled over charcoal with peanut sauce.
What
Yes.
are some of the conversations that come out from eating these dishes like this, in particular penis satay?
Well, it was fun. My husband, who spoke very good Indonesian, and I used to take our foreign guests and say, let's eat out, let's have satay, and then we'd order the satay kontol. And they'd say, oh, and what's this? We'd say, a penis. They'd fall about, or they'd go for it.
Which one do you want to start with? Cross that one out because you've gone through all of them. You spent a decent whack of time in Indonesia over the 2 stints. What was it like? Did you said the first time was watching a society crumble. You went back the second time. Had it changed and improved?
Oh, it had changed a great deal because by then, Suharto, who'd really engineered the coup. I mean, you're not allowed to say that, but I've just said it. The military had established control, and it was getting the economy under control. The father, actually, of the current president, Prabowo, his father, Sumitro, I think his name was, Professor Sumitro, he was a wonderful economist. Suharto, very intelligently, they brought in a lot of Indonesian economists and other experts to get the country back together again. And so while the first time was chaos, by the second time it was much more ordered.
So this is the second time you meet Bob. You lock eyes. Who falls in love with who first?
Look, I've got to say he fell in love with me.
Did he?
Yes, I was very happy with my first husband and very keen on my first husband. So I found Bob fascinating. I didn't know who the hell he was. I'd lived overseas for a long while. I didn't know that he was famous, and I actually thought his name was Robin.
Robin Hawke.
Yes. Yeah, like Robin Hood. What is it? Well, we met at a party, and I knew a lot about Indonesia, and we sat on this swinging chair thing and talked for about 2 hours, and he asked a lot of questions. I was really thrilled to have somebody talking about Indonesia, not wanting to know about the poor, not wanting to visit the slums, which is what most of the businessmen and politicians who came through did want to do. And I thought, you're a decent guy. You know, you're a genuinely decent man.
So he contributed to conversation, which is what he did in life, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, very much. And contributed to he contributed to society. That was very much in his upbringing and nature.
So you captured that in the beginning. Now, this swinging seat that you're on, Blanche, do you know what these swinging seats are called?
Well, apparently they're called love swings. I didn't know that at the time.
And so you'd met him, and at what point did you realise, oh goodness, I have to marry this man?
Oh, years and years later. Really, more than a decade later.
Did your writing kick off in Indonesia?
No, it didn't. It didn't kick off until my son was born in Malaysia. A couple of years later, and it was as if giving birth just completely released creativity in me. And so I started writing short stories, and then I came back to Australia, and I realised I had all of these stories to share with Australians, to try and tell them what Indonesia was like, and that's when I sat down and started to write. So but it was I give complete thanks to my son for that.
Really? For pushing you through that,
yeah,
making you push him out, and
yes,
pushed out some books afterwards. So Monkey in the Dark was
Monkeys in the Dark.
Monkeys in the Dark was
that was the first book I wrote. I couldn't get it published. It was a novel, and the economy had gone south at the time. So I then went and did a biography of Sir Richard Kirby, who'd had a lot to do with Indonesia in the very early days, before it was a recognised country. And I wanted to... So that's when I got interested in the Australian Trade Union movement and the ACTU, which is what Bob was head of.
Now, speaking about Bob, I read somewhere that Bob didn't want to marry you because he'd lose 3% of the votes.
Exactly.
I would have told him, see you later, at least 5%.
No, 3% was
3%.
And that's a lot.
When you look back at that moment, what was going on for you?
Look, I understood that completely. I wanted him to be Prime Minister. I could.
Why did you want him to be Prime Minister?
Because I thought he'd be a very good Prime Minister. And as it things turned out he was. And I could see that for him to cruel his chances by getting divorced then would be a disaster for him. I might say it would have been a disaster for me too, because I was way too young. Bob was 14 years older than I, and at that stage I hadn't actually had anything published but maybe Mediator, just the first biography. So I had a whole lot of work and living that I had to do before I was ready to.
Was it a case of the relationship being put on pause?
Oh no, it was a big breakup at the time. It was a volatile relationship. Bob's a volatile person. So that was a bust-up. And we had a number of bust-ups over the years.
And then, so we all know Bob instigated some pretty amazing, incredible changes to the nation. During his term, he floated the Aussie dollar, which was the best thing for our economy.
Yep.
He initiated Medicare, free medical assistance for all Australians. He passed legislation to prevent discrimination in the workplace, and he created the Office of Multicultural Affairs, plus so much more. Did you have a sway or an influence in any of it?
None. He had been thinking about politics since he was at least 12 years old. His uncle was the Premier of Western Australia, and the household was very political. His mother had great ambitions for him to lead the nation.
He came from a Labor family?
He came from a Labor family and a very religious family, Congregationalists they were. His father was a Congregationalist minister. His mother had big ambitions for him because she actually wanted him to be a girl. And the Bible had told her that she was going to have a boy and the government would be upon his shoulder. And she took this quite literally. So she was keen for him to go ahead and to lead the nation. He had been thinking of political things since he was a kid.
Did he see it as a religious calling like she did?
He saw it as his destiny.
For the Australian public?
And for himself.
Yeah. And so what were the conversations like between you during dinner?
When we were married?
When you were married?
Oh, well, we always talk politics and geopolitics. He was very interested in world affairs, as was I.
Yeah.
Because I'd lived in plenty of different countries.
Did you talk about anything else other than politics?
Yes, we talked about writing. Bob wasn't well read in fiction anyway, but he did love poetry. So, and I got him onto Yeats, and he did love Yeats. We talked. We used to go to the movies. He'd never been to the movies much. I was a mad keen movie fan, so I used to get him the movies. He wanted to talk about sport. That was useful. Talking to sport to me is useless. I know nothing.
What is it like? I mean, you experience firsthand. What is it like for a once Prime Minister to not be a Prime Minister anymore and watch from the sidelines?
Initially, it was very difficult for him. I think he really needed to marry me to get himself from falling into a depression at losing the Prime Ministership.
Was he ready to let it? Well, he had no choice. Was he wasn't ready at that time when he lost it?
Nobody's ready to give up power.
Really?
Very few. Menzies was clever.
What did Menzies do?
Menzies stepped down when he wasn't on top of his game, and he was also very ill. But he did step down willingly. He wasn't pushed. Everybody else has to be pushed.
How did you help Bob float through those years after?
I think just love. Just because I loved him so much.
And what did you cook together?
Oh my goodness! Well,
monkey penis soup.
Oh yes, monkey penis soup, night after night. He could boil water, and he could fry onions, and that was it.
How was he on the barbecue?
Not very good, not very attentive. So I used to do the barbecuing, basically.
It seems you did a lot around your lives together. It was you. Am I right?
Well, no, we travelled an enormous amount. We were going overseas more or less every 6 weeks. We'd go away for a fortnight, come back for say a month or 6 weeks, and then travel again. Yeah.
Did he encourage you to write?
No, and in fact, by the time I married him, I was written out of my first stage, and I then went into another stage with him where we just had fun together, travelling and
When
enjoying
you say you were
life.
written out of your first stage,
Yes,
you gave up your career?
yes,
Was that a conscious decision?
yes,
And you were happy to do that?
yes, because I'd run out of things to say.
You've got a lot to say right now.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Comes and goes.
What is your favourite memory about Bob?
Oh, gosh. Well, funnily enough, it was in Hong Kong. We were with some honky friends there and at a party, and him singing to me, "Love You Tender."
Do you hear that often?
Yes, I love the song. Yes. And he had a very beautiful baritone voice. So it was, I think that's one of my sweetest memories. There's a very nice photograph of it down in South Australia.
Your third food memory, this is a big one. Dinner at Buckingham Palace with the Queen and Prince Philip.
Yes,
How did you get an invitation?
because it was the centenary of Federation, which was 2001. That's when Australia became a country. And all the living former prime ministers were and their spouses were invited. And so it was quite a small group. The Howards, of course, were there, and Malcolm Fraser and John Gordon and, gee, I can't think of who the others were because Farrell Holt had gone and got drowned. And the Queen.
He just went. It's going to get a little bit drowned here. Went for a walk.
went for a walk on the beach when it was and the Queen Her Majesty liked Bob very much.
Oh, hold on to that. Hold on. Let's start from the very beginning. Explain what happens when you get the invitation.
So we get
what does it feel like? What does it is it a thing or is it just like this little? Is it a text?
It's certainly not a text. It's very nice, beautifully gold embossed card inviting you, and so we're invited to a number of things, but dinner at the palace was one of them, and it is a very thrilling sensation. So I must tell you, to be driving around along Pall Mall and suddenly the car turns through the gates.
Wait a minute, you've missed a big bit. Aren't you panicking of what you're going to wear?
Oh, yes.
I mean, you've got all this inspiration. That is Sonia McMahon's dress from the 60s.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to attempt that. No, I had a very nice dress from actually Maria Finlay in Double Bay. She was a wonderful fashionista and a great friend of mine. And so it was a very smart black dress. But I made a terrible mistake. I wore really gorgeous looking shoes, but they didn't have a
non-slip.
Yeah, they weren't non-slip. That's right. And so we've got out of the limousine.
Up the Mall. So we're on the Mall now.
Yeah, we're on the Mall. We've turned into the gates, past the men in the big fur hats, and driving along a red carpet. Oh no, maybe driving along gravel, and then we get to the steps, and there's red carpet up the steps, and I put my foot on the first step, and I think, oh my God, my shoe's going to fall off. Anyway, I saved that and got up the steps, and it was okay. And then, of course, there are footmen or whatever waiting to greet you at the top of the steps, and then we go into a reception room and mingle with the other people. There weren't a whole lot of people. I think there might have been, because our ambassador was there, of course. I can't remember how many there were, if there would be 20 of altogether. And we all mingle, we give them canapé and make small talk, and then Her Majesty and the Prince arrived.
And so, was it true that Bob was one of Her Majesty's favourite Australian Prime Ministers?
Yes, he was.
Even though he was a Republican?
Yes, but Her Majesty really liked men.
Explain.
Well, I can't explain more than that. She would have to explain. But it was obvious.
But you explain what you observed of her when she was in the company of men.
She was very comfortable with men. She'd, don't forget, she was a monarch. She was number one. So she had, and she'd been very well treated by men all her life. Starting with Churchill as I think her first Prime Minister. And she liked men. She liked Bob because he was a terrible flirt, and he used to flirt with her, which he clearly enjoyed. And of course they shared a huge love of racehorses.
Of course. You please finish.
And the other thing was she liked jokes, and Bob was very good at telling jokes.
And so how did this play with all the other prime ministers, the ex-prime ministers in the room?
Oh, no. Did
she share the attention?
Oh, completely. No, the protocol was absolutely observed in that respect. She showed no favouritism to any of them.
What was Bob's response to the invitation, having a meal with the Queen?
Well, he'd done so before.
So did he prepare you for what was to happen?
No. He never did. He just used to throw me in at the deep end and expect I'd float.
What did you think of it all? This is your first experience in Buckingham Palace.
It was fascinating, because the Queen, Her Majesty, was very charming and interesting and very, very well informed and very bright. So, for example, to me, she talked about a novel that had recently been published.
Tell us about what you ate, if you remember.
Oh, I remember very well. So then we went into the dining room. It was a small dining room. It was the blue room, as I recall, and we were all seated, and each one of us had a footman standing behind us.
Have you experienced anything like this before?
No.
And the shoes are still slippery.
Yes, but they're staying on the foot. And the footman pulls out the chair and whatnot. And that footman, or sometimes the footman was a footwoman, would exclusively serve you. So our first course, I must admit, I can't remember, but it was some sort of cold soup. And because it was honouring Australia, our main course was lamb. And then the third course, there might have been more than 3 courses, but the third course was they were very memorable because they were wild strawberries from the royal estate. And what was fascinating was I was sitting next to Malcolm Fraser, and he was watching the prince eat, and Fraser said to me at one stage, "Look, the prince has finished his strawberries and the Queen's still only eating a lamb." And it was like that. It was Liberty Hall. There was zero protocol. It was so relaxed.
Was it for this? Do you think it was for this particular dinner?
No, I think this was all sort of very friendly and a celebratory occasion, maybe for for a state dinner would be bigger and more formal and quite different. But this was in a small room. We were all talking to each other, and it was just very relaxed, like dinner with friends.
Does it? Well, actually, that's what I was going to ask you. When you get together with the old ex-prime ministers and their wives, what does it feel like?
Well, look, it's a small club. They're all interested in each other. They all know the same stuff, and so they've got whatever side of politics they're on, they know they're at a certain level they're brothers and sisters.
So it's a community. It's a friendship.
Yes, very much. Yeah.
Do you have many conversations with any of the ex-prime ministers, or their wives? Do you keep in contact with them?
No. I've stepped away from that completely.
You would have had a front row seat in Aussie politics. Where do you sit in Australia's Republican debate?
Oh, I'm just not interested in it anymore. I think there are so many more important things that are coming. I've got no doubt that we're approaching a war.
That's how you feel right now?
Yes.
And what are you basing that on?
Evidence. Look, everybody's rearming. America and China are going to fight, but whether they will fight directly or through proxies, and we would be an American proxy, is unknown. And whether it would be a kinetic war, a hot war, or whether it would be a cyber war, or whether it be cutting undersea communication cables, got no idea. But a war is coming. Look what's happening in Europe. Look what's happening in the Middle East. Sweden has 3 years ago had a look over its shoulder at Russia and reintroduced national service. All countries are gearing up for a punch-up, but nobody knows when or where it'll happen.
Blanche, you've chosen Inala as your social cause. Tell us about Inala.
It's marvellous. Well, of course I'd say that. It's a Rudolf Steiner organisation started in, sorry, I should know this exactly, 1951, I think. It's for what Steiner called in his terribly translated German English, curative education. So it started as a school, the first school for children from as young as 6 months who were very mentally disabled. And the parents, there was nothing for parents before then. And it took in children, and it started off as a school, and over the years it grew, and now the school, it set the benchmark for how to educate the intellectually disabled. And that's now been taken over by many other organisations, including the state. And it's closed its school, and it now runs group housing for the intellectually disabled.
And you were associated as a patron for some 24 years.
24 years, yes.
And you've stepped back now, and who's replaced you?
Richard Wilkins.
Why have you chosen Inala as your social cause?
I always had a lot of interest in Steiner as a great thinker, and he was a marvellous scientist and an intellectual. He started biodynamic farming. A lot of people don't realise that. And he had thoughts about. He thought about a great many things. He was also a mystic, a Christian mystic. So I'd been reading a lot of his books, which sold in a particular shop in the CBD, and they actually approached me because they knew I was really interested, and said, would I become associated? So first of all, I think I was called ambassador. It basically was fundraising for them, and it was on a very small scale when I first went there, and it was still a bit unicorns and rainbows, but it's now become much more upmarket's the wrong word. Seriously minded and integrated into practicalities. And of course, the NDIS is both a blessing and, well, it's straight up a blessing, but it's being abused so much it's becoming a curse. Not for Inala, but generally.
And what
For the economy.
For the economy. And what influence does Inala have over therapies at a state level and a federal level in health?
Well, it established a way to educate people who are intellectually disabled. And it established a way to educate autistic kids, which used to be quite dangerous.
How can we support Inala?
I think just by mentioning it.
Yeah.
It's up in the Hills district. It's up at Cherrybrook. And it's a very, very well-established organisation up there and very well supported by the community and much, much appreciated.
So we'll put it in the show notes, but the website is inala.org.au.
Yes.
Here at TFM, we have an MFK Fisher Serve at Fourth tradition, where our previous guest serves you up a dish. Our previous guest is PBS journalist Simon Ostrovsky. Do you know who Simon is?
No.
Simon is an American, is a Russian Jewish background. He's an American journalist who has been covering the Crimean War since 2014, and he was abducted by Russian separatists.
Right.
So he serves you pierogi. How do you feel about pierogi? Oh, Polish man.
Yeah, pierogi is just fine. Thank you. Yum,
The
yum.
love language.
Yes. Yum, yum.
Did your Polish man ever make you pierogi?
No, we never cooked.
What dish would you like to serve our next guest?
Who's the next guest?
I don't know if I'm a... Oh, okay. Well, you know what? You're Blanche. I'm not saying no to you. Our next guest, who would you... You're serving forward to Kenji Morimoto, who is a young, fresh Japanese-American fermenter, and he's based in London.
Right. You don't want to serve a Japanese, do you?
Well, you're the one cooking the meal, Blanche.
Okay, Barra. Yeah. So I very much like cooking barramundi.
Have you caught it?
Which I've caught.
Which you've caught.
Yes, yeah. Up in the Northern Territory. So barra with soy, olive oil and mirin perhaps, and ginger and shallot. Yes, and that would be the main course.
That would be the main course.
Yes.
And what would you talk about with Kenji?
I don't know. I'd let him lead.
Blanche, you have lived a full life and you've made it very clear you've got more years that you want to fill.
Yes.
For me, I think the greatest story here is the true love that you and a man had together.
Yes.
I mean, it just so happens to be Bob Hawke, one of our most famous Australian prime ministers. What piece of advice, now according to you there's a war of some description coming up the ranks, what piece of advice do you have for us to live a big life?
It always gets back to love. I think to have any sort of big life, you have to give a lot of love and be open to receiving love. And that expands you as a person and those around you.
Blanche, what a thrill it's been to talk with you and learn more about your incredible life. Now let's turn the mics off and get really juicy. That's it for this episode of 3 Food Memories.